Hello and welcome back to Adventure 82. Today we're here to have a look at St Catherine's Breakwater, but to also answer a question. Why did the harbour fail in the first place before it was even built? So before we go walking down the Breakwater, we need to start from the beginning. So the original intention of this in the first place was for it to become a naval station in times of war with France. The reason for that being is that they decided over in the UK that we needed a harbour in times of war with France because St Helier wasn't close enough and they didn't see Gorey Harbour as a suitable place to be sending off naval ships. So this was going to be a naval base as well as a shipping dock when it wasn't being used as one. They started off by deciding where they wanted to put it, because here wasn't the original place. There was to the naval admirals that were of the island decided the best place would either be Bully Bay or Nawamur. The general inspector, on the other hand, who outranked them, said no, it's not, the best place is St Catherine's, so it's here. There was a short disagreement about it, but overall he pulled rank, he wins. So in 1847, as the stone suggests, they started building this place. But before we get further into the story of how this came to be, let's move a bit further up and have a look at the Breakwater, and we'll tell you some more of the story as we go along. So we're now on the very picturesque Breakwater, as you can see, popular with tourists and locals for fishing. But back to the story. So we're in 1846 at the minute. They've just decided they're going to build it here. So what happens next? Well, the Navy gathers some consultant engineers and instruct these engineers to go and buy up over 100 houses between here, which was at the time called Breakwater, and all the way down to Gorey Castle, video in top corner, cheap plug, and all the way down the other direction as well, as far as Flickay. They've bought all these. What's the point? Well, they buy all these houses, and some of the houses are used and the land is used for housing the workers. Some of the land was actually dug up and used as quarries, which is why you have dips and dives where the quarries have since then been filled in to supply the stone. And some of it was used for mining as well as the quarrying. And there's one specific hospital, is now not a hospital, it's a house called L'Hôpital, which was kept as a hospital, but this was claimed a bit later on. They built this house as an extra one a couple of years later when they realised there was going to be injuries. Why they didn't realise before they started, God only knows. But yeah, so first stone was laid, as you could see, as you saw from the beginning there, in 1847, down where we started. And as Eric is showing you the very lovely view of the area, you can see there in the distance the cafe. The cafe was the lighthouse keeper's house for the cast iron lighthouse, which used to stand on the end there. But there was a twin. So when they started building this, they also started building over there. Now I don't know if you can see it on camera, but over there there's a little red tower. Red and white tower. That's Archirondel. Now over there at Archirondel, they started building an adjacent wall that was meant to be opposite this. But as you can see, there is no pier wall. Well, there is. It's a very short one. That one was never finished. Why wasn't it finished? I'll tell you in the next bit. But for now, let's move a bit further up the Breakwater and see what else we can find along the way whilst I'm telling you this story. So as we take our walk down the Breakwater here, on this very nice sunny day in Jersey, I'll fill you in some more on this story. So we've got to 1847, they've placed their first stones, they've bought up all this land, all these houses, they've started quarrying, bringing down stone. What happened next? Well, whilst they were building this, there was 300 men, and they were all blasting, mining and building for 2 shillings and 6pence. That's an awful lot of danger for very little money, but very common at the time. You know, you look at the guys who were mining coal and stuff in Wales and things, and they weren't being paid an awful lot for what they were doing. But they did it anyway because they had mouths to feed, families to look after, just like we do now. You do what you need to do to look after the people that rely on you. That's what it was. So you had these 300 men, 7 of them actually got crushed and died during construction, which is when they bought the house, as I mentioned before, L'Hôpital. So if you live in a house called L'Hôpital and you happen to be watching this, you're living in a former hospital. So by 1848, the southern arm had reached 300 foot. The southern arm would be the Archirondel side. And then St Catherine's, or as it was being called, Breakwater, had reached Pier. Now I don't know if you know what Pier is. Beginning over there, and kind of in the middle here, there was a rocky outcrop of islands. They were called Pier. Muel. I can't pronounce it properly. I've lived here 40 years, and I apologise, some of my French is still appalling. But I reached there. So it was about roughly where Erica is now. It had gotten down to that, it's about 300 feet. That's a lot of progress when you consider they've been doing the other arm at the same time. But you can see that the naval storage had been put in place at this point. So you see, I was starting to build little cubby holes like this. Store, I'm guessing, ammunition stuff in out the weather. If container boats and stuff were coming in, that would have been done too. But you might be asking yourself, it's all well and good, Stephen, but why have they got this gravel bit here? Why do they have half gravel, half stone? There is an interesting thing to that. This is linked to something else we've covered. If any of you who've been watching me since the beginning will be fully aware this channel started by following the JR&T railway. And before the JR&T railway started, in the 1870s, in the 1840s, 1847 actually, there was a gentleman who tried to build a railway from this harbour, or wanted to build a railway from this harbour down to Goree, and then all the way down into St Helier and all the way across into Corbière in one long stretch. That never got off the ground. But if it had have done, and you have to wonder whether it was because of what happened here, this would have been the track bed. That's why there's such a wide, reasonably flat surface with stone and stuff on it. This was meant to be track bed. This was going to be the pier. And then just like the construction in St Helier, you have your upper pier on the top. So it's linked to railways as well. And it was also used by the Germans. They armed it at the far end there, back during the occupation. Alas, that's why there's, as far as I can find out, that's why there's a lot of concrete dumped over the edge. That, and so some people have said to me it's due to them getting rid of the old lighthouse, and others have told me it's just excess stone from when the plug was pulled. Plug was pulled, they're saying? What do you mean, what plug was pulled? And we'll get there. Right, you just get into one of these cubby holes. See, a lot of these are used now for campfires in the summer. They're quite popular for that. This one stinks of damp though. Someone's had a fire in here not too long ago. They could smell smokiness, and well, you can see where it was. Look at that, right in the corner. Right, so with that in mind, let's find another nice part of the breakwater which isn't particularly difficult, and we'll continue our story. What birds can you see, Erica?
I don't know, there's black things up there. There.
If you can see the birds, but apparently they're called black things.
Can't see from here, it's not
Black things.
They're not close enough, I know them if they're close up.
Is actually a bird that's actually called the black thing. I've heard of a black bird, not a black thing.
Well, there is now.
I don't even know. Alright guys, so we're now in late 1848. They've decided to pause construction over there at Archirondel in favour of completing this arm first and then finishing Archirondel later. And by 1852 this had reached its full 2,300 feet and was finished. And then a couple of years later after that, in 1854, the cast iron lighthouse was finished. What remains of the cast iron lighthouse is this building I'm stood next to now. That's it. As far as I'm aware now, it's just a mobile phone transmitter. And it was a radio transmitter for the ports of Jersey. Whether the ports of Jersey or not still use it, I'm not sure, because they have their own rotating antenna at the back there now, just on top of one of the rocky outcrops just behind the cafe, former lighthouse, keeper's house. And I think that's also used now, but I don't think it's even used now actually by the air control. But yeah, so now in 1854 they finished this, and then a couple more years later, 1856, and suddenly this belongs to Jersey. Why? Well, in 1854, Parliament in the UK decided that this wasn't necessary anymore. Plug pulled. Done. If you have one arm of the harbour done, the other arm was never done. I say this is done, it's not completely done. It was meant to curve round slightly as the entrance. If you've ever seen the entrance to St Helier Harbour, it was meant to curve round to make an entrance in the middle. So this arm was done, but this side wasn't done. There was more to be added on. And it left, well, Archirondel in a state. Because now Archirondel hadn't been touched for 6-7 years since they'd halted work there. And that was never going to be finished. Why? Well, because Parliament decided to pull the plug on the basis that the reason that they started building it in the first place, which was in case of war with France, was not a problem anymore. France by this point had its own internal problems, and Jersey being attacked by France was probably one of the least likely things it was going to do, which rendered this a whole pointless exercise. Or did it? That's what we're here to find out. So, we'll finish this story across the way at Archirondel, so we can see exactly what state they left it in and try and figure out the answer to our original question. Why did this harbour fail in the first place? Archirondel. And the place we need to go to finish the story is up there. The unfinished pier. And I think it stood like this for over 150 years like this, waiting for someone to come and finish it. No one's coming. And you can see its sister in the distance, St Catherine's, where we were just a few moments ago. So 1866, this and that were given to the States. There was an argument because they didn't want it, but the Navy didn't want it either. And when you're the States of Jersey versus the Navy of the Crown, you're just not going to win. So it became the States' problem, and from 1866 that's exactly what it was. So they appointed a lighthouse keeper. They built a lighthouse over there, lighthouse keeper's cottage over there, which we saw, and then it became the lighthouse keeper's job to look after, maintain the pier and the lighthouse and let the States know if anything needed doing. This was abandoned. The only part of here that wasn't abandoned was the tower, and they were all built too late as well. Which brings us back to our original question. Why did the harbour fail? If you ask me, there's multiple reasons. It was built for a reason that during its construction became no longer an issue because the French weren't going to attack anymore. The people who started building it didn't want it anymore. And something that's holds true even to the modern day era. Parliament and government made a decision that it didn't follow through with. Which one of those is the main factor it failed? I'll let you guys decide that one. Would it have worked as a harbour? That, I don't know. I mean, you can see the little rocky outcrops here, there and everywhere. They would have caught our boats left, right and centre. As a fishing harbour, maybe. For the big massive wooden boats and the steamships that were coming into fruition then, probably not. Its only real claim to usefulness, apart from for fishermen these days, was for the Germans to help them guard during the occupation. It's something that follows through with time in general, isn't it? It's just, we build stuff and then we don't need it anymore. Sometimes it's built and it's used for hundreds of years without ever losing its purpose. Sometimes it's built and it's used for a small amount of time, which is the more common way of things going these days, and you don't need it anymore. And sometimes what we start to create is just unlucky and it's not needed before it's even finished. And that, in a nutshell, is what happened to the St. Catherine's Harbour. On a more positive note though, let's go up here, because we need to tie up the video obviously, and if you're a railway enthusiast, you'll like the news I've got for you as well. So let's go back up here. Right, so before anybody else picks up on the clothing change, it's the day after the video you've just watched and we're refilming the end because somebody, wasn't me, may have aimed the camera correctly to do it, and then something happened, and when I got home and I checked everything, me and Erica were headless. So I'm refilming the end one. So as I said to you yesterday, the end video, I had some stuff with railway enthusiasts. The end thing is that we're going to be doing the Eastern Railway, so that'll be coming probably mid-June by the time we filmed it and had a chance to edit some of that. We've got some other stuff coming up with Malcolm and Paul. So there's some more bunker stuff for people who are interested in those. You may have seen that I was in the Bailiwick Express. Pleasure talking to the lady on Bailiwick Express. I do apologise, I've forgotten your name, but it was a pleasure talking to you and thank you for doing that. So if any of you have joined me from watching that, thank you for taking the time to read it and have a look at my videos. It's much appreciated. Due to demand, there will be some other hotel videos coming out, but it will be on specific hotels, maybe one or two a video that have got stories left behind them, because there's a few that are left like that, but there's not many. So there will be a couple more hotels, despite the fact I said that'll be the last one. I don't know when I'll be making any more of those though, so you're going to have to keep your eyes peeled for those. I've got the Salzburg stuff coming up for you guys as well, because I said it's mine and Erica's 20th wedding anniversary this year. We're going away in Salzburg end of July, so I'd imagine probably sometime in August you'll get our videos we're going to make for you whilst we're over there in Salzburg, just a couple. Obviously because it's a wedding anniversary, if I spend all of it making stuff for YouTube, I'll probably get a slap.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how Erica's part of me for 20 years, but I've learned over 20 years, if you push your luck too far, you get a slap. So that's what's coming up. For people who aren't too sure about Patreon, I've set up Buy Me a Coffee, which you can give like as little as £1 if you want to help the channel. As I've mentioned previously, I would like to go and do places like Alderney, Guernsey and stuff. I mean, like, obviously we're going away to Salzburg this year, but that was a 10-year saving project for us, because despite popular belief, not everybody in Jersey is a millionaire. So if you can help the channel, that'd be brilliant. Otherwise, even just supporting it by watching the videos, commenting, subscribing, these are all brilliant things, and I appreciate any and all of those things that you do. But for me and Erica, until next week, I have no blooming idea yet which one that's going to be, because I've got about 3 or 4 I've got to try and do this week, so that you guys have videos for the end of June. And I haven't decided what order I'm going to put them out in yet. But yeah, until then, we'll see you somewhere in Jersey. Just don't know where that is. But yeah, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.